We'll go ahead and get this started because our special guest is going to be joining us here in a couple of minutes. And the whole point of this is to kind of catch you by surprise, like to kind of keep you on your toes a little bit because you've settled into this routine and, you're like, I got it. I'm just going to flip on a headset and talk ball with these clowns. But
all right,
very special guest to break down
so
the
slow
NFL
down
draft tomorrow.
Before you do this, is happening quickly.
It's always happening quickly, man.
I mean, because I have some fun questions for you guys.
What kind of questions? Football questions or
I don't
life
want
questions?
No, football questions.
Okay,
I watch football.
Save them.
No. It's just I want to get an idea of what people perceive to be true versus what actual reality is, and I would have to go down that road to get you guys. It's a lot of QB
deep
talk, but it's fun.
Well, we're not talking QBs explicitly here on this program today because we've already gotten your takes. We know you are Team Burrow. We know you are Team Herbert.
There's more. No, and Team 2, I like all three of them, which is why they're all 3 first-round draft choice.
You can't like everybody, man. At some point,
I'm not like you. There's not only one good player in the world, which is what you think. Whoever won the last championship at quarterback is the only good player in the world.
No, I don't think like that. I diversify my bonds. Serber got a new puppy that I think I might be hearing her in the background. I'm not sure, but Serber, if that is your new puppy, get her in line, okay? I mean, this is a national podcast here, bro.
Is it a squeaky sound? That?
Oh, that's your chair. Okay, I thought it was
freaking chair, dude. I gotta get some WD-40 out.
Unbelievable, man. I mean, what's your excuse? I mean, you're sitting around the house.
Every chair I own squeaks at school. Because I'm never. If you guys have noticed, I never sit still. I've
noticed that now that I can see your face while we're doing these shows. Yeah.
I never sit still, and I'm slamming Starbucks today.
I was going to say, maybe it's time to switch to like half calf. They can do that. They can dial that down a notch. By the way,
this is my drug.
Speaking of fuel, Retail Therapy finally pulled the trigger on an espresso machine at the house. Nice. Dangerous. All right. Our special guest is here. They're going to be joining the show here. The beauty of technology, they should be popping up here very shortly. Very special guest has entered the program. There he is.
Look at you. Hey, did you get punched in the mouth, or this is a visual thing there, Mr. John Jansen? I mean, do you have a spitter there next to you?
As a matter of fact, I do. We're now sponsored.
Very nice. Very on brand for our man JJ. John, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. How you guys doing?
Well, we're better now.
Hold on. I got to move you guys down so I can see you. I'm not staring at something out in space. I'll look at my notes a little bit later.
This is us.
Hey, guess what, Hartzell? I actually guessed, and I was hopeful. Not because I like you or anything, John, okay, but I was like, I bet it's Jansen. That's what I was thinking when he set this up. So I'm all prepared. He told me I can't talk about QBs anymore, but we're married, buddy. QBs and linemen are married. You can't talk about Joe Burrow's success unless you talk about the guys, the heavies in front of them. You just can't do it. They're connected.
They are. And I tell you what, I love my quarterbacks. They have always taken care of me because I take care of them. Hey, it is very symbiotic relationship.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, that's well put. Hey, JJ, before we get hot and heavy into the NFL draft talk, man, by the way, sweet setup you got there. Very nice. I like that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
What's the status of quarantine in the Jansen residence? I mean, we're like 6 weeks in. So how you holding up? How are things in your neck of the woods, man?
Things are good. I am now, and Wayne, I'm sure that you're a little bit ahead of the curve, right? Because you're a teacher, right? So I am now the English teacher. I am now the Spanish teacher, social studies, history, Latin. I mean, you name it, and I am freaking rolling. So it's been a little bit fun in that regards because all of my kids, if they were all the same age, if I had, like what's for a quadruplet? I don't know. Help me out here.
Quad something. Yes. Yeah, quad something.
Yes. If they were all the same age, right? I would be all right. But now I'm trying to do 8th grade math and algebra. I'm trying to do 7th grade. I've got 3rd and 4th grade. Plus, I'm the PE teacher. I'm the basketball coach,
Yeah.
trying to hold down a job. But I tell you what, as a parent, this has been the greatest 6 weeks of my life because my kids are with me all the time. Sure, there are plenty of times where they learn some new vocabulary, but as long as they can't spell it, I figure, what the hell? It's all right.
Good for you.
Hey, Jansen, to be honest with you, just give up on the whole math thing. I don't know how good you were with it, but for like me, I haven't done math since I left school for the most part, other than like the basic math you use in life. What these kids are doing as early as 8th grade kids ask me all the time. I'm like, the math teacher's next door. Go bug them.
Hey, I'm good to 100, right? Because, hey, if we got the ball on the 1 yard line, I know I got 99 to go.
Yes, sir.
If it's third and 4, you know what? We get 4 yards, I get 10 back. So, hey, I'm good to go from 1 to 10 and 1 to 100. Past that, it's past my capacity.
Well, I'm glad you're doing well, buddy. I'd like to reach out to our CSN family, and you're one of the founding fathers of the show. So it's great to have you back. I know you and Wayne are tight. Y'all haven't seen each other in ages, so this is great. This is healthy. Go ahead.
Hey, I want to ask you. Hey, don't be rushing me too much. Are we on a time limit here?
No, I've extended.
He's always doing that.
No. I've got.
Don't
I'm
be
trying
rushing
to move
me
things
here.
along. Okay, all right. We'll take it slow.
So I want to ask. I want to ask you, Mr. Hartzell, Papa Hartzell of a Deuce now. I want to know, how's it going with Two in the House?
It's a challenge at times, man. I'll be honest. We got 3 and 1. Okay. You've been there. I mean, it's a challenge. I mean, now it's great because, to your point, like, we are at home all day. Like, parenting it's a blessing, of course, but at that age, man, it grinds. I mean, like, we got to get them outside. We got to get them exercise, because if we don't, they're just gonna eat us alive.
Yes.
But it's great, man. Like, you said something very.
How's my namesake?
Jonathan is a big boy. He's he is. You'll appreciate this. We took him to the doctor for his 1-year checkup. He has a BMI, a body mass index. He's in the 98th percentile. Okay, he's not he's not very tall, but he's very he's heavy. He's
stout.
He's thick.
He's a Clydesdale.
Yeah, he's a big boy. But
welcome
look,
to the club.
You said something prophetic a couple of years ago. You're like, when the kids start growing up, they're going to start eating a lot more food, but they're not going to finish all that food. So you will be finishing macaroni and cheese and pizza slices and chicken nuggets. I'm eating a lot more too, which is not necessarily the best thing.
Yeah, it's the dad 20.
Yeah,
turns into the dad 30.
Yeah, it's happening.
Wait till you have a 21-year-old and a 14-year-old in your house. You got, two men basically floating around there. They're always hungry. It never ends. Although I will tell you this, my biggest
now they're
concern.
taking food off your plate.
Yeah.
They are. My biggest concern though, John, is when we're done here, my 14-year-old and I are going to go play long toss. There's some cool things about, like, he's on his throwing regimen. That's what today's job is. We're going to go play long toss.
Yeah, see, I like the long toss too. And now my son is 8, right? My 3 oldest are girls, which is trust me, it's 6 weeks now. So let's face facts. I've already been through the cycle. They all hit it at the same time. My son and I decided that we were going to go for a long bike ride, a long car ride. We came back after a couple of days of playing long toss and shooting baskets.
Yes.
All is good.
Yes.
That's amazing, man. But that's the thing. Like, those kids, like, they want to see their friends, right?
Yeah.
Like, they want to socialize. Like, that's a part of school that they look forward to. And we were walking through the neighborhood today. Somebody was having a birthday, and there's like drive-by birthday things going on. I mean, like, it's just a whole nother world, man. It's a whole nother world. Fingers crossed that we get football in the fall, but I don't know.
I think
man.
it looks good.
I think so.
It looks good. Okay. Yeah, I'm positive. I trust me. About 3 weeks ago, about halfway through where we are now, right? I hit the gotta be the glasses half full type of mentality, because there was so much negative news. And when we hit the week where, whether it's President Trump or Dr. Fauci or whoever it is talking and saying, hey, this is supposed to be the worst week. Well, to me, I'm thinking, all right, if this is the worst, then tomorrow is going to be better.
Yeah.
And then, and really since then, it has been some better news, and we're starting to hear, and we heard that the group of 5 and the Power 5 commissioners all met with Vice President Pence. All that came out of that meeting, basically, to me, what came out of it was, we understand the difference between professional sports, those that are getting paid to take the risks, whether it's health risk, whether it's injury risk, no matter what it is, there's a difference between that and then the student athlete who is still a student. So we have to have students back on campus. We got to have universities open, but we're going to make sure that we're safe here. So we may see pro football before we see college football, but I do believe that we'll get to a point where we got to open things up and we're going to have some football in the fall.
Someone said something interesting to me the other day. They said that, when you listen to Fauci and the other doctors, they're doctors. They're not worried about the economy. And what makes this difficult is you have to piece these both together, which is very complicated because we talked about this the other day, John, the financial aspect of all the people that are employed through football, the athletic departments and how much funding comes from football. This is a deep dive into the economics of this game, which is it's insane. And so to think that it's just about it's just a sport. It's people's livelihoods. And I go even deeper. I even talk about all the, my son's going to be a freshman in high school next year, and he can't wait to play freshman football. And I had to tell him, I go, it might not happen. And he was pretty cool about it. He goes, because he's still like younger maturity wise. Yeah. So he said, well, it'll give me another a chance to mature. Cause how there's those, ninth graders that have beards, and he's not that kid. So it was funny that he said that, but he's been looking forward to freshman football for forever. So there's a lot more to this than just, I think, what some people think.
Yeah. Well, tell your son I'm 44 and I'm still young, mature wise as well. And haven't still hit that.
That's true.
But I think, to your point, there's the whole, we've got to get sports going and more than just football. We got to get sports going because it's such a big part of the economy. It's such a big part of what we are as Americans, but it's the mental health side of this as well. And sports can help fill that gap. Football will help fill that gap. After 9/11, we took a week off. And then it was sports that brought us back together. It united us. It gave us something to look forward to. It provided a distraction. And right now, we don't have any of that. We've got the NFL draft, which I think the ratings tomorrow night, for a number of reasons, are going to be enormous. Yeah. Yep. And when you think about just think about what 6 million people watched The Last Dance. That's amazing to me. And it was great. But now all of a sudden you've spent so many weeks without live programming, without new programming. Everybody has binge watched every show they can probably watch. I mean, Joe Exotic, everything with that is completely spent and run its course. But now you have a chance to watch something happen live. Even though it's not live sports, it's a live event. And so that is intriguing. Plus, it's going to be virtual. And I, as a former player, I hope everything goes seamlessly.
Sure.
As somebody now that's on Zoom meetings with you guys, that does a bunch of radio, I hope there's absolute chaos because it's going to be so much fun to watch.
Yeah. Somebody's internet connection times out when they're on the clock, or it could get pretty spicy. Let's jump into it though, JJ, because this episode's going to drop the morning of the draft, and it's unscripted, right? We know the draft order, but there's going to be trades. There's going to be things happening. And we've talked to Wayne about the quarterbacks a lot. We've kind of broken that down. What are you most into? Like, what's the storyline for you as we get ready for the draft Thursday night?
I know that everybody says there's going to be a lot of trades, but I think this is set up for the internet, for the communication, for as soon as somebody goes off script. And it doesn't matter who it is. We know Cincinnati's going with Joe Burrow. Number 2, we think it's Chase Young, but if Dan Snyder decides, hey, I'm going to go Tua Tagovailoa, now all of a sudden everything's off script. And, there's probably a scenario that people have in their war rooms and their draft rooms for that. But then you get down to 6 and 7, and as soon as it goes off, now all of a sudden everybody's scenario, there's somebody available that nobody thought was going to be available, and maybe 2 or 3 teams want to trade. Well, you've got to field those phone calls. You've got to find a way to communicate with everybody, get the best possible deal. And I think that when that happens, there's not going to be enough time. There's going to be a lack of communication. So we'll see less picks. But the other thing I think is going to happen in this draft is in the first 2 rounds, and you might even say this is true in the 3rd round, but the first couple of rounds I think are going to be high quality picks because you're not being distracted by a 40 time that this kid ran, or, oh my gosh, this kid bench pressed 225 pounds 70 times. You didn't have pro days. Yes, you have the combine, but you didn't have all that other distraction, all that other data. You're going to have to, front offices, coaches, GMs are going to have to actually go and watch film. And they're going to be watching and evaluating on what they want their players to do, and that's play football.
Yeah.
So I think that we're going to get a quality draft in the first couple of rounds.
It's funny, John. I talked about that the other day because someone said, "Well, what about missing all the pro days?" I'm like, so what? You have game film on all these guys. That's what you should be watching anyway.
Yeah.
I want to see how these guys play. I'm going to ask you a question that's going to combine our two positions. Okay. Obviously, you pointed it out, and I just watched on TV the Bengals talking about how they don't know who they're going to pick with kind of a sheepish grin on their face, right? Like, I can't divulge this information.
Yeah.
Well, then what do you like about Joe Burrow? And he went off for about 20 minutes talking about all the things he likes about him. One of the things that I like, John, and I really want you to talk about offensive line play when I bring this up. One of the things I fell in love with Joe Burrow the more I watched him, and I know that we live in a world where the press, the media, everything you read for some reason wants every quarterback to be like Lamar Jackson. Like, this is the wave of the future. When only one Lamar Jackson exists in the world right now. You know what I mean? Like, he's like what Michael Vick was before. They're like unicorns. They're like the only guys out there that are fast enough to outrun NFL players. There's very few of those guys that exist. But when I watch Joe Burrow and I watch him play quarterback, the way he sets up his linemen, the way he moves in the pocket, the way he's always looking to throw, and how accurate he is when he throws, I would think for an offensive lineman, I love him a lot better than looking back and see a guy that just button hooked and tried to outrun everybody going backwards and lost 15 yards. I would think that would irritate me. Or a guy that's always just moving around so much. I like guys that move with purpose and get rid of the ball.
All right, so if it's Lamar Jackson, and there's an exception to every rule. Right now,
Right.
Lamar Jackson is that exception.
Which is why I pointed that out.
Yeah, if I look back there and he's button hooking and he's shucking and jiving and making something happen, I'm okay with that. But for the most part, as an offensive lineman, you're right. I want to know on a 5-step drop where my quarterback is. At 7 steps, I know he's at 9.5 yards. If I run my guy 10.5 yards past him, I'm good. All of those things are techniques that I try and that I work on to get to that point. Now, I've worked with some mobile quarterbacks. Jason Campbell was one of them, and he didn't have the speed or the footwork of a Lamar Jackson, but he was mobile enough to where he could get outside the pocket and extend some plays and make something happen. But I was always wondering, and it comes down to now, the offensive linemen have to, instead of just concentrating on blocking and getting that guy to 10.5 yards for a 7-step drop, now I've got to read my defensive lineman. Not only do I have to read, is it a speed rush? Is he going to try and dip his shoulder and cut the edge? Is he going to come back inside on a bull rush? Is there a counter move? But I've also got to read his body language, because then it tells me where the quarterback is going. If I see his eyes go over my left shoulder, if I'm the right tackle and I see him go over my left shoulder, now I know that the quarterback has escaped outside the backside of the pocket. If I see his eyes and his body language all of a sudden start to pull away, 2 things have to happen. One, I've got to pursue, but I've also got to let go, or I'm going to get called for holding.
How often, John? I'm sorry, Steven. I jump in for another question. How often in your
fine. I'm
career,
used to
when
it.
you watch
Okay.
game film, were you thinking, get rid of the freaking ball?
Oh,
What are you doing?
there's so many things I could say right now, but since we're alive, I'm not going to say them.
Oh, we're not live, actually. We can clean all this stuff up in post, man. So you can.
Okay,
leave it
well,
live. It's
then
okay.
I'll let you decide what comes next, because, hey, we used to tell the quarterback when we got in there, hey, quit jerking the ball off because it ain't coming.
Yes. Yes.
Phenomenal.
Yes, and that
Well
was
said.
getting edited.
Well said.
That's this, right? That's
Yeah,
what you're
quit
talking about?
pumping the ball. I mean,
get rid of the ball.
there's nothing, the air is not coming out of the ball. Nothing's happening. So if you either throw the ball
Thank you.
or run, but just, make a decision.
That's great.
Thank
Hey,
you,
John,
thank
it's
you,
funny.
Hartzell, for giving us that
Yeah.
GIF. By the way,
Yeah,
from now
thank you.
on, we have that
Yeah,
forever.
hey, you're welcome.
It's
My
funny
pleasure.
because I can tell you how many times I've watched a quarterback, and I'm sitting there and he's staying on his one for like an hour. He's sitting there
Yeah.
going, he's got to come over. He says, dude, your 2 and 3 are now
Yeah.
covered because you're not getting through your progressions quick enough. And it's like, I don't care what grade. I was watching a show the other day, and Hartzell and these guys were making fun of me. I was watching Peyton's Place, and Peyton Manning's favorite quarterback growing up was when it wasn't his dad was Dan Marino.
Yeah.
And Dan Marino, who probably has the best release in the history of the game, right? It's unbelievable how short his throwing motion was. But they said, why did you develop that? And one of the reasons he pointed out was because those other guys were trying to hit him, and if he got rid of the ball quickly, he didn't get hit as much.
Yeah, I mean, look at Tom Brady. He's a guy that gets the ball out because he doesn't want to get hit. And I had a quarterback too. Here's another one for you. You guys remember the old Shake Weight commercial?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, do it, Hartzell.
Yeah.
I don't have one laying around.
Come on.
I know
It's
what you're talking about. Yeah.
But I used to get back in the pocket or in the huddle, and I'd be like, dude, it's not a shake wake. Let's go. Yeah. Throw the ball, man. It's just you've got to be a quarterback. And this is and Wayne, you could talk about this. It's hard for those rookie quarterbacks. And if you're I don't care how good you are. You could be Joe Burrow, have the greatest college football season anybody has ever seen, but the speed of the game is different. When you go to be a rookie, it's hard to stand back there and go, okay, 1, 2, 3, I deliver. Oh, wait. Oh, I missed my window. Because those windows not only are tight, but they open and close so quickly. Yet that anticipation, the speed of the game, doesn't matter what position you play. There's an increase of speed from high school to college, and it's a big time speed increase. But there is nothing, absolutely nothing that I can even tell you that will give you an idea of the speed increase from. And I played at Michigan. All right, and not that you couldn't tell, with all this. I got to ask this question, right? I know we're in the middle of a podcast, but are you guys going to be broadcasting the video feed as well, or just taking snapshots and putting them out there?
Well, John, I'm glad that you're still very much in tune to what we're putting out on our social media and podcast feeds, but we are posting the audio.
I know you post the audio. I haven't seen the video.
Cerber has created a YouTube channel. Okay, so this could live
Cerb's the best, man.
Forever. I mean, we could show our grandkids about that night we did the NFL draft preview. So yeah, this is everywhere, man. That's why I needed to see your face. That's why.
This is why we have to have a good background, John. I mean, it's good stuff.
And so Wayne, I missed you, and it's great to see you. Hartzell, it's great to see you, and I missed you. But Cerbs, this is the first time that we're doing a show that I can actually see you.
Yeah, I know, man. This is great.
You're beautiful.
You are too, man. Big guys got to stick together.
Hat on. He's ready to rock and roll, man. Let's go.
He looks like a guy you want to just give a hug to, doesn't he?
So can I jump the shark on this one and just ask Cerbs, since you got your Dolphins hat on, did they tank for Tua or what's going on?
They were tanking hard, man. And then they screwed up. They were like, okay, we've tanked enough. And they kind of have put themselves in a position where they might miss Tua. They might be getting Justin Herbert. If I just think that number 3 spot's up for grabs. We talked about this on the show the other day. What do you think? Do you think Chargers potentially are like, oh hell no, we're getting Tua, we're not chancing this, and they jump the Dolphins? Because that 3 spot is, I mean, the Giants are like.
Just saw it on TV. They were just talking about that.
You're assuming that Tua is going to be the next quarterback off the board.
Sure. Oh, that's another thing. Snyder better than anybody else on this 100%. You played for the man.
I don't think it's Dan Snyder. We all know Joe Burrow's going 1. So the next quarterback, it's really going to be between Tua Tagovailoa and Justin Herbert. And if it's me, I don't want to take Tua, especially that high, because of his injury issues. And I know a lot of people will say, oh, well, you're just referring to the hip. Well, yes, that's part of it, because while he may recover right now, what does it look like 3, 4, 5 years down the road?
Sure. He's
never played a college football season healthy. If you can't play and get through a 12-game college football season, let me tell you what, a 16-game, soon-to-be 17-game season is a heck of a lot harder, and those guys are bigger, they're faster, it hurts a lot more, and it's harder to recover week to week. So I don't know, and we hear all of this talk coming out about Tua Tagovailoa and his doctor, right? But what can you really believe? Because what doctor is going to come out and say, yeah, I think I did okay.
Yeah, sure.
I hope he has a good outcome. No, they're always going to say, yeah, we expect him to be full. He's full go right now, and it was a great outcome. Couldn't expect anything better. and it may be true. I'm not trying to say it's not. But until these teams can get their own physicians and put their hands on him, there's a gigantic question mark.
This circles around, John, to what we were talking about earlier before you got sidetracked. By the way, I appreciate another person on this show getting sidetracked like I do, because I do it all the time. Yeah. But it's funny because when I think about Herbert, and pretty much it seems like everybody just, the guy won a Rose Bowl and he did nothing but win. He did what his coaches asked him to do, whether it was running, whether it was throwing. Yeah, he's got some things to work on, but I hate that we act like freshmen coming into college or rookies coming into the NFL, as you alluded to earlier, just going to walk in and be like, I got this. Yeah. It's a different game every time you move up every level. I mean, I remember trying to make the 49ers, and I couldn't throw a curl against air. I was so nervous. I was like, oh, my God, is that Jerry Rice? Is that Steve Young? I'm like, what am I doing here? And it messed with my head, not to mention trying to learn the freaking plays, which was crazy. Tua, when I look at Herbert, I see a guy with huge upside, but I want to go back to something you were talking about earlier with quarterbacks in the pocket. And I think of this when I think of a guy like Justin Herbert, but also when I think of a guy like Jacob Eason, two really big guys that NFL scouts tend to drool over.
Yeah.
The big arm guys that can sit back and wait and rocket the ball quite often rely on that in the NFL. And they stay on guys too long. They try to big arm everything. And again, I'll go back to why I like Burrow so much. You watch him throw a crossing route, he doesn't throw it, or a slant. He doesn't throw it 8 million miles an hour. To where his receivers have a hard time catching the ball. If you really study NFL quarterbacks, you'll actually watch these guys feather balls in there, especially when they're crossing routes or other things. Mm-hmm. And it makes them very, very catchable. They just have that ability to do. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is a great example. Aaron Rodgers is a great example. They've got every throw you can even imagine. They can throw it behind the back. They throw it underhand. They can do it all. Some big arm quarterbacks can't. I'm with you on the Tua stuff. I love his fundamentals. I love his base. I love the way he moves, but I'm not sold. Someone said the other day, well, what if they got Tua in with the Patriots? I said, and I laughed because I said, do you actually think that just because he's Tua, now goes by one name, you don't even have to know how to say Tagovailoa anymore. You just say Tua, and everybody knows who you're talking about. That he would just step in and become Tom Brady because he's Tua from Alabama. I'm like, you're crazy. Yeah. Tom Brady is special. He's unique. Those guys are hard to find, which is why so many quarterbacks fail in the league.
Well, and not only that, but when Tua was at Alabama, he had weapons everywhere, and it's the same with Burrow. He had weapons everywhere. The reason I like Justin Herbert was because he did it the hard way, right? He didn't have all of those, fancy toys to play with. So when he gets into the league, he's going to be in a system where, maybe he's got one stud receiver, but he's got to find a way to get everybody else involved. Right. And, if Tua goes to New England, I mean, why do you think Tom wanted out of New England, right? They didn't give him a supporting cast. And now all of a sudden he's down in Tampa. He's got Gronk back. The WWE, whatever he is, world heavyweight champion. If I'm playing against New England or if I'm playing against Tampa Bay, if I tackle Gronk, I'm staying on it and I'm going to give him the 1, 2, 3. I'm going to tap him out, and then I'm going to claim after the game that I am the world heavyweight champion.
It's appropriate that 2 members of the AARP are on a football team in the state of Florida. Don't you agree? Those 2 old fogies.
You can play, man.
With the age, young buck.
Season. Come on, that guy's he breaks down every year.
This is the perfect opportunity, though, Hartzell. And I can't. When I take notes, I have to find ways to throw them in somehow, some way. I want you to think about. And I have it. I'm not going to go through all of them because I don't want to bore you guys. But if you go back the last decade, not just winning Super Bowl quarterbacks, but the losing Super Bowl quarterback, most of them are slow.
Mm-hmm.
They're big, slow guys that read defenses really, really well. I'm not saying Russell Wilson's in there, and he's great. He also played with a great defense. But for a lot of guys, there's a lot of Brady and Manning. But there's just a lot of big guys that are really smart. In how they lead, how they use the pocket, how they play. So, of all of these players we're talking about, I would think that GMs are really looking for a guy that has a little bit of everything. I mean, if you can just run, if you're real fast, if you've got a strong arm, but there's so many little factors and pieces that play into elite quarterbacks. Again, that's why so many fail. And John, this is the same for offensive linemen.
Basically what you're doing is you're looking for Patrick Mahomes.
You are, because okay, so this is a great question. So Patrick Mahomes has the most arm talent since Aaron Rodgers. And those two guys, when you just watch them throw, their arm talent is off the charts. They are also both what I would call modern day mobile.
Yeah.
They're guys that are mobile enough to, they'll show that Patrick Mahomes run, for example, quite a bit, which was amazing. But trust me, Patrick Mahomes would rather not do that. When he's moving around, he wants to use that stinking arm. He wants to throw it, any way, shape, or form.
Andy Reid doesn't want him to run either.
Exactly, which is why, though, Patrick Mahomes is going to be an elite quarterback for a very long time. Some of the other guys that don't have that kind of arm talent, because eventually you get slower as you get older. You know that, John. We all get a little bit slower as we get older. And even if you're playing O-line, you know how you get away with being a little bit slower? Better technique than the other idiots you're playing against, right?
It's called holding. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Holding.
Yeah. You know what? I miss our live shows when we used to do this in person at the national championship game, because I never got those comments from Mr. Hartzell. Right? Kevin Hart, as I used to call him. Yeah, I bet you were waiting for me to throw that one in there. It's been a long time, brother.
This is healthy. This is good. And again, I'm hanging out with a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old all day, so it's just nice to have adult interaction from time to time. I want to go back to what Cerber was talking about, these franchises that have top 5, top 10 picks. I read something this morning about there might be a run on tackles because there's some very talented offensive linemen in this draft. You got Andrew Thomas out of Georgia. You got the Wirfs kid out of Iowa. There's an Alabama tackle up there. JJ, I mean, this is your neck of the woods. I'm curious if any of these guys jump off the page or the screen more than others. If there's somebody that you think is a surefire, can't miss, 10-year pro at that tackle position.
There is not that person has not been born. All right. The only one I would go and say, hey, surefire, can't miss, Orlando Pace. Yeah. Maybe Jonathan Ogden would fit into that category as well. Everybody else, there's always risk involved. And the risk is injury. The risk is, hey, they sign a big contract and they just don't want to play anymore. They just don't want to work anymore. There's never a surefire, can't miss pick. But in this draft, I think there's some unique aspects to this draft. And I think the New York Giants, who pick number 4, I think they go offensive tackle. And they go with a guy like Andrew Thomas. And here's why. When you look at Jedrick Wills, you look at Tristan Wirfs. Tristan Wirfs is a great example. He's got all the tools in his toolbox, except he played right tackle. And if you're going to draft a guy in the top 5 and top 10, and it's a little bit, and I'll explain why it's a little bit of a misnomer anymore, but if you're going to ask a guy to make a position change because you need a left tackle, this is not the year to do it. You're not going to have OTAs. You're not going to have mini camp. You could have an abbreviated training camp. If you need a plug-and-play type player that you want to put in there because you just drafted Jones as your starting quarterback for the next decade, you've got Saquon Barkley that you don't want to waste in the first 5 years of his career, you need to have somebody up front that you can plug and play. Andrew Thomas has played left tackle for the last couple of years. He's played both sides, but primarily left tackle. And if you're going to plug and play, you need a guy that has that experience coming out of a left-handed stance. What's it feel like on your pass sets on that side? So I think that is the one commodity this year that not many people are talking about, is the lack of preparation into this football season. So I like Andrew Thomas at that 4 pick for the Giants.
That's a good point. Yeah.
John, I love the way you think, because one little thing that just kind of slipped through there real quick, that once guys get a paycheck, the risk factor. Yeah. I've talked about this quite a bit, and you did such a good job of, and quickly, by the way, I'm never quick, so this is good. There are guys out there, and I'm going to tie this into The Last Dance. Okay, I'm going to tie this into, because Michael Jordan has taken some heat since that last airing about what he said about Scottie Pippen, and about when Pippen was playing for peanuts for a couple mil, and he was making 30-something million. He's like, man, he should have had surgery and been back for the season. Yeah. The reason why I'm bringing this up is that I don't know people, because people are so wrapped around money. Michael Jordan wanted to win every freaking game he ever played since he was a little kid. And if you paid attention to the show, that is how he was wired, which is one of the reasons why the greats are like that. They want to beat you no matter what, whether they're paying for $1 million, they're playing for or just bragging rights. And so I understand what Jordan was saying. And people were like, well, he signed the contract. It is what it is. Show up, get your surgery and show up. And I know that there's people out there listening that are on both sides of that. I'm just trying to point out that there are tons of guys that when they make it, they made it.
Yeah.
There are a lot of other guys when they make it, they're like, it's day one. I'm just starting now. Now I've got to prove to everybody how great I am, and they're driven that way.
Well, and when you sign a contract, right, in the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, doesn't matter where you sign it or what you sign it for. The next day that you walk on the field, you're either overpaid or underpaid. And you want to be the guy that proves that you are, even though you sign a new contract, that you're still underpaid. You've got to outperform that contract every chance you get, and that's every day on the practice field. That's every day, every time you get a chance to take the field for a game. You want to go out there, and your sole goal is to win. And Serbs, I don't know how this will come across, but tanking for Tua, or hey, we want to lose because we want to get a better draft pick. That is complete BS, because that is a mindset now that you've got to get out of everybody. You can't just put a new roster out there.
Yes.
Right? You can't just say to your offensive line, okay, now we want you to go hard and win. It's not a light switch that you could turn on and off. So when you even put that out there, that this is happening, now all of a sudden your players who don't want to go out there and lose have no respect for your front office. They've got no respect for anything that's going to happen. And then you tell me all of a sudden, hey, we need you to go out there and win.
Yes.
Why now?
Barry Server's franchise and rub his nose in it. That's fantastic.
He makes an awesome point, and honestly, I think what you saw, the Dolphins played more players than any other team in the NFL by far, and they broke the record, I think, in the NFL for most players played and started and all that. And they started to win a couple games down the stretch. And the reason why is because those dudes that were there at the beginning of the year, this group of players or coaches or whatever was going on that was like, we got to lose. We suck anyway. By the time those guys were moved out and these other hungry guys who started off the year not on a team, they're like, screw that. I'm out here to win, and not just for this team. I'm here to win for myself. And they started to win a few games.
So this example was also a part of The Last Dance, right? When Jordan was like, we're trying to lose. Like, what is this all about? Like, it's just because that's the way those guys are wired. John, so Chase Young, right? He seems like he's this elite athlete that people, and there's people that would probably argue that he's the best player in the draft as far as athleticism. I don't know what you think about that, but this is more of an O-line question. The world that we live in now, I mean, you have to be such a great athlete, especially if you're playing on the outside.
Yeah.
You have to be so good because the athletes you're going up against are usually smaller, faster. They're still strong. They're extremely athletic. If you could break it down a little bit, and if I'm sure you watched, and I know you don't like talking about, you can be a little angry when you talk about Ohio State players. That's fine. How would you take on an athlete like this? Like how would you approach it as an offensive line player?
Chase Young, I'll say this. Chase Young is a terrific athlete, and he's a great football player. Jeffrey Okudah is a great football player. Those guys are going to be really good pros. They have a chance to be really good, pros. If I'm blocking a guy like Chase Young, and I blocked Javon Curse, Julius Peppers, a lot of guys that you could compare Chase Young to, you can't throw them the same pitch every time. There are guys that you can go out there, and I'm going to take the same set every time because I don't want to show my changeup against somebody that doesn't deserve or need to throw a changeup pitch too. I'm going to step back, and I'm just going to beat the hell out of you as I want to. But at a guy like Chase Young, you've got to jump him. You've got to, you've got to throw that changeup pitch, even when it's a 7-step drop. All right, and it's a 3rd and long situation. If I can put my hand on him, then I have all the tools in my toolbox. I'm going to jump out there, and I'm going to give him a hands to the face because nobody's going to call that, on the first couple of plays of the game. You set the tone early. You jack him up. And then all of a sudden you tell your running back, when you have help, hey, I'm going to give you a little bit on this one. Just promise me, and this is where the trust builds up, that you're going to be there. I had a fullback in Larry Centers, the greatest fullback I ever played with. And I would tell him in the huddle, I'd be like, because I'm playing against Mike Strahan. I'm blocking him one-on-one. He's got a free release. And he would come up and say, hey, you want something on this one? Because he actually wanted to hit somebody. And I'd say, yeah, I tell you what, I'm going to give you a little bit on the outside. And he would come and just just dropped a hammer on him. And then there'd be times where, again, same free release. I'll be like, hey, where do you want to get out? He'd go like, I'd really like to go inside you. I'm like, all right, if I give you a little bit on the inside, will you chip him on your way? Oh, yeah. So I would overset him. Mike thinks he's got me, and then all of a sudden, here is Larry Centers with his helmet right under his chin strap. Bam! That is, you've got to have that in your toolbox as well. So it's not just what you do, it's the tools that you can throw at them from your running back, your fullback, and then you've got to have communication with your coach as well. Hey, could you put a tight end over there this time? Or, if you know where that defense is going to set up, all right, if it's an over and under defense, and you know, hey, I want to get into an over defense look. Hey, if we run this motion, I'm going to get that. It'll allow me to throw this pitch on this play. Hey, no problem. All right, so you go up to the line of scrimmage, you line up, you motion. That they get to the offense that they want, but you get the defensive front you want. Now all of a sudden, hey, I can control the tempo of the game. I can control the pace at which this guy is rushing at. And if I take him out of pinning his ears back and just thinking that he can rush any way he wants, and I get him thinking, that's where I want to see Chase Young at the next level when he's playing against guys, offensive tackles that think like that. How is he going to progress in that? It's not just athletic ability or talent or skill or length that gets you success in the NFL. It's taking your mental game to the next level.
Hey, John, first of all, that was awesome. And, offensive linemen are the second smartest position group on the –
Let me wipe my mic off a little bit. I got a little excited.
No, well, this is funny because as you were talking, and of course I was enthralled with everything you said, and you can pull up the Uncle Rico if you want to. I witnessed a little Larry Centers in my short period of time with the I played for Buddy Ryan for a little while at Arizona.
Here we go.
And
Here you go.
So I was brought in, and after about a week, one of the camp arms, which I was too, but one of the other camp arms was cut so I could stay. And I'm sitting in our offensive meeting, the one of the first days, and I'm actually trying to listen to the offensive coordinator talk. I'm trying to learn something because your head's swimming early on in your career. And I'm sitting, and Larry Centers and Garrison Hurst are sitting right behind me.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Cook, that guy that got cut because of you, that was our boy. Hey, Cook, you need to bring us a 12-pack of beer to tomorrow night's meeting. Hey, Cook. They were just grilling me the whole time. And I'm sitting there, and I'm going, guys, and I'm trying to listen. I ignore them. Like, Cook, you better respond to us right now. They're like, and I turn around, and he goes, guys, no, and I ignored him. So long story short, we walk out of the meeting, and at this point, they're like, we're going to kick your ass, Cook. We're going to kick your ass if you don't bring us beer to tomorrow night's meeting. You're done. And I walk out of the meeting, and I get out, and I'm scared. This is Garrison Hurst, Georgia running back, great. Larry Centers, I'm going to get my butt kicked, right? And I walk out, and I go, all right, guys, I'm not getting you the beer. If we're going to do this, let's go.
Wow.
Now, I may not have said that. I may not have said that as tough as I just said it, but they both laughed. Larry slapped me on the butt and said, all right, just checking. And then from then on, we were good. Now,
so
a couple weeks later, I got cut, so it didn't matter, but still.
Yeah. Next guy came in.
Got that beer.
Yeah. We didn't know him very well.
Larry was great, though, by the way. On the practice room, that moment on, he was nothing but helpful, and what a great player.
Larry had when there's always this argument, right? Is a hot dog a sandwich, or what is it? And is you got 5 fingers, but no, you got 4 and one's the thumb. Larry had 5 fingers. His thumb was longer than his pointer finger. I saw him. Not only was he a great chipper, but he was great catching the ball out of the backfield, and that is absolutely a lost art. And we're going to see that's going to be a detriment to a lot of players in this draft. The running backs is the ability to be a third down back as well, and that's catching the football. Larry Centers used to be able to run out there, and he would just stick a hand up and catch a ball out of midair because his thumb was so damn long. It was like it would just wrap around the ball every time he touched it.
Hey, John, I asked Wayne on our show earlier this week if there was a guy in the draft that, wasn't a projected top 10 pick, maybe a guy who was trying to work his way into the first round, but somebody that you like that isn't getting a lot of pub going into draft night that you think would be a steal. Somebody that not necessarily that you're overreaching for, but a guy that you've seen play in college who you think is just going to be a good pro that not a lot of people are talking about.
I think Kenny Willekes out of Michigan State. Here's a guy that breaks his leg in the Red Box Bowl against Oregon last year, comes back for his senior year. There was a lot of people that thought he was going to go to the NFL last year, and if he did, he probably would have been late first, early second, because he had that type of ability. Breaks his leg, comes back, doesn't have the numbers this year, but this is a guy that's a walk-on at Michigan State, earned a scholarship, and is a go hard. I can't even say the word I want to say. It's two, and it you could guess what it is. Rhymes with Buckeye. And so when you think about him, he's a guy that just he has earned his right to be in this draft. He has earned his right to play defensive line for Michigan State University, and he is going to continue to work his butt off to be good at the next level. I think he is a guy that is probably going to be a third-round pick, but you're going to get high second-round talent and production out of him.
It's funny. It's funny, John, and I love that because I talked about when we had Roddy on. I brought up Joshua Kelly from UCLA because of similar reasons. The guy's a walk-on. He played at UC Davis, and he's just, in my opinion, one of those guys that doesn't know how to not make it.
Yeah,
he'll do anything and everything it takes to win every single game he plays in, and you know, he's played for some pretty bad teams recently, and he's always got the best attitude in the world, and that's underestimated when you talk about guys. You know, you want to be humble to a sense, but also have that confidence that you know you're good enough. I just feel like he's got all the little pieces that it takes, and so I love hearing stories about guys like that.
Yeah, another guy that, and I'll give you one, since you went UCLA, you went in your backyard.
You got to go Michigan. It's okay.
Backyard. Josh Uche is a guy that I think he's led Michigan in the sacks the last 2 years. I talked to him, had him on my podcast earlier in the season, and his goal this year was not to be known as the edge rusher, but to be a four-down defensive end. And he had worked his way into that. I really wish he had come back for another year because I wanted to see more of it. But then he went down to the Senior Bowl and had a great Senior Bowl in regards to not only does he have a great get-off and can get after the passer, which is what NFL franchises are looking for, but he also showed that he could hold up against those bigger offensive tackles in the run game. I think he is a guy that is going to need a certain fit in a defense. But if he gets drafted by the right team and he gets that opportunity to show that he can be a four-down guy, but has the opportunity to get after the quarterback, look out. This is a guy that's going to play for a long time and be very effective in the NFL.
What's fun about this conversation, and this is a question for everybody, and I don't even know the answers. I love it when people post stuff like in last year's Super Bowl, how many of these guys were 2 and 3 stars, and it's like way more than you would think, and how many guys were first-round draft choices, how many guys – and I know there's numbers that favor 5 stars and favor first-rounders too, don't get me wrong. But as John knows, and I've seen it over the years, and you guys as well, not all first-round draft choices make it, man. I was watching – I think it was Drew Pierce. Who was the Cowboy that came out on draft day and just went nuts in Philadelphia? Was that Drew Pearson? Do you guys remember? You know what I'm talking about? Either way, he said, this receiver for the Cowboys who had a great career said, I was like this back when they had so many rounds. Like, he's like, I was like a 17th round draft choice.
Yeah.
And it used to be really fun to look up in the old days how many players were drafted late that went. I mean, I'm talking late, like later than the number of rounds we have today.
Yeah.
That went on to have amazing careers. Mm-hmm. This is an inexact science. There are guys all over the place. Yeah.
There's no sure thing in the first round. There's no lock. You would like to think that Cincinnati, if they take Joe Burrow, that in 5 years they're going to be, he's going to be one of the studs in the NFL. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee Chase Young is going to be that. Jeff Okudah. I mean, you go right down the list. There's no guarantee for any of these guys. It's when they get there, what are they going to do? What's their want to?
Yeah. And the thing about Burrow is he might be a great quarterback, but he's going to a trash franchise. And
who's won there?
A guy who goes late first round might be going to more than likely will be going to a much better franchise and maybe better equipped to succeed. Hey John, how are you going to watch the draft, man? Do you have to work? Because I know you're on Sirius XM like nonstop, man. I can't turn that thing on without hearing your voice. You're a star. So do you get to relax and just like drink some Cooey Lights like a normal person, or do you have to work?
Tomorrow night, I will be watching it just pure pleasure. So I'll have myself a nice 12-pack of a cold beverage,
12.
probably
Okay, love it.
order some chicken wings, and obviously I'll have to social distance when I pick them up.
Sure.
And I social distance my chicken wings too, because I don't want them to cross contaminate with the blue cheese, right? So I make sure that they're spaced out just perfectly. They get the right amount of blue cheese on each one so that they're all well taken care of. All 12 of my beverage will be social distance in my refrigerator, staying nice and cold, but I will be watching it at home, and I'll be on tomorrow morning. Or when are we airing?
This will drop Thursday right around lunchtime. So you'll be
Okay.
on XM.
So I
probably,
was
right, with
on
the-
this morning,
Okay.
and I'll be on again tomorrow morning on the first team on Sirius XM, and then Big Ten later in the day as well.
Guy's a rock star, man. I love it.
Hey.
It's amazing, John. You're doing great stuff, man. I'm proud of you. I think it's awesome. And again, like it's all earned. I mean, it's great, man. I'm happy for your success. At John Jansen 77 on Twitter. What's the Big Ten channel? I know XM 84 is like the big boy channel. Big Ten is
ESPNU is
372.
84. Big Ten channel is 372.
372. Yeah.
Yeah, me and Pete Pistone.
It's amazing, man. It's awesome. I know you're glad that you get to talk football though, because I mean, like when it's basketball season, it's like, God, can we just get back to the real sport? It's okay. I'll speak on your behalf. It's all right.
I enjoyed talking a little basketball, especially in the Big Ten this year. It was a great season for the Big Ten. And everybody says, oh, well, they had maybe 10 teams in the tournament, but they didn't have a national championship. Then you look at Joe Lunardi, you look at all of these mock simulated, tournaments, and all of a sudden, hey, Michigan State's playing for the national championship. One of them had Michigan State winning the national championship. Hey, let's go Big Ten.
Awesome.
Hey, JJ and I lived in an era when we played multiple sports, okay? We were real athletes, real men. It was just whatever ball you throw out there, we can play. It's just what it is.
Football, basketball, baseball. I mean,
bring it on.
Yeah. And I tell you what, I wish that we had this opportunity to Zoom back when I was doing the food segment.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that would have been so much easier than, trying to.
I know. Yes.
We used to have to. I had
made
the cell
you jump
phone.
through hoops. I know.
No, I loved it. I loved it. This is where, hey, you guys gave me an opportunity, and I still love coming on with you guys. I hope we get to do this a little more often. I miss you guys.
Hey, drums or
sir.
flats on the chicken wings? Drums or flats? Or you go mixed?
I go mixed. It doesn't matter. Just throw them in there. They all eat. They all go to the same place.
I'm a flats guy, man. I prefer flats. I mean, I don't seek them out. I don't request flats only, but, all things being equal, I'm a flats guy. I'm just put it
Not
out
surprising. I got to say, not surprising.
Hey, man, stay safe up there in Ann Arbor, okay? I know you're not too far from Detroit, which is a little crazy right now.
Hey, we'll do that. And Serbs, hey, Dolphins, I'll be pulling for you, man.
Yeah, well, so it can't
So,
get
hey,
any
before
worse,
we
brother.
go, I know that you're trying to kick me out the door, but I want to know. Okay, Hartzell, who's your team? Are you a Panthers guy since you're down there?
No, hell no. I'm a disgruntled, disappointed, and angry Atlanta Falcons fan, and I'm sure they'll find a way to screw this up. So
who's your dream pick?
the dream pick, I've read some scenarios that have Dimitrov and company packaging some picks to move up to take Okudah, which I would be thrilled with. I think
That'd be
great.
amazing.
If they want to go boring and take a tackle to protect Noodle Arm, I'm okay with that too.
Okay, all right, Serbs. I got to believe it's Tua Tagovailoa, right?
I think we got to get him. Like Herbert's okay, but take the risk. Like
Roll Tide.
let's do it.
Do they have to move up for it?
No, I don't think so,
They
man.
could
I
get him
think
at 5.
Yeah, I think the points that you brought up earlier, you were talking about the injury, the durability
Yeah.
questions, and the fact that it doesn't seem like anyone's 100% sold on Herbert either. I don't think anyone moves up for a quarterback. I think everyone stays put. They get their guy. If anyone's moving up, it's like Hartzell said, it's for one of these stud defensive players, Isaiah Simmons, Okudah, one of those guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
And are you a Raiders fan, a Chargers fan, or
Rams.
are you the Rams?
Rams need some work, man. They've lost quite a few players over the last year, so I have no idea. to be honest with you. They can go get a linebacker, they can get a receiver, they can get a corner, they can get a – I mean, there's a lot of players out there, but the Rams seem to be going a little bit in the wrong direction right now. I'm still a Jared Goff fan.
Yeah.
I think he's good enough. He had 2 years in a row. See, this is one of the questions I wanted to ask you at the beginning of the day, and I was going to mess with your head.
Let's go. Hey, but if these guys got to go to bed, let's just keep on talking.
That's what so here was my question. And I know this is trickier than it sounds. Deshaun Watson or Jared Goff?
No question.
No, your obvious answer is you guys. I know you two. I don't know what John would say. I know you guys are going to say Deshaun Watson.
I won't.
No, but that's what you're going to say, right? You didn't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
Almost everybody takes Deshaun. But if you compare the first parts of their careers, only one of them's played in a Super Bowl.
No, there's no question.
And they both had 2 really good seasons. My point is that we live in an era sometimes where it's a beauty contest, and we decide, like you have with Matty Ice, who also was a Super Bowl quarterback at one point in time, that you've decided that if you don't win, and John and I are the two here that know that if you don't have the right guys around you, things fall apart real fast.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter no matter how good you are. And so for the reason why I posed that question, if you go back and you look at the stats, and I know Jared Goff had 1 extra year, they both had 2 seasons that were pretty darn good for young quarterbacks, both of them. And I'm just saying, we act like, the obvious answer is Deshaun Watson. I'm like, well, only one of them's played in a Super Bowl. And you know what I mean? Like, it's the only reason why I'm saying that. I know it's society, Deshaun Watson. But if we're really breaking it down, I don't know if the gap's as big as people think.
They're so young. It's TBD, right? It's still to be determined. And so there's still a lot of football in those young legs. And, for me, since you guys asked, I appreciate it. My Detroit Lions and Serbs, I know that you will like this. Hey, if you're going to build a team, right, you've got to build it with a player that is dynamic. If you're Matt Patricia, Serbs, where are you going?
He's going to get his Clemson gear.
There you go. There you go. That's what I thought I was going to see. If you're Matt Patricia and you want to have a versatile player and be creative like you were at New England, your job's on the line. Who are you going to go with? You're going to go with somebody that's had success, somebody that knows what a championship feels like, and that's Isaiah Simmons. You're going to have a guy out there that can play any position on defense. You can be creative as you want with him. He can cover receivers. He can cover backs. He can rush the quarterback. That dude, I think, is going to be a flat-out football player, and I'm excited to see him. They don't go with him. I want Derek Brown.
I was going to
go guys. Well, okay. So Detroit. So talk to me about. So is Stafford one of those guys with a lot of talent, that big arm, a lot of talent, been a starter for a while.
Yeah.
That just not had that. I mean, is he a product of what we're talking about? Because again, I keep going down the list. We keep talking about all these quarterbacks, and think of all the quarterbacks that have come into the league with high hope. And now we're sitting at the point, and I think Hartzell said this the other day when Stafford was brought up, like he's done. Just tell him to go home. He can't play. And yet I still see a guy with a ton of talent.
That guy has 0 playoff wins, I think.
Again, but look where he's playing. Again, I keep making that point.
He's had talent to play with. He had Calvin Johnson, one of the best receivers of our generation.
Thank you.
And couldn't win with him. And so here's a question I'll pose for you. If Gronkowski can be traded out of retirement, can Detroit trade Calvin Johnson?
Right.
Well,
it's a little bit of a different scenario.
He's a Georgia
34.
Tech guy. He's a smart one. He's like, I'm done. I'm not destroying my body anymore. He's out. There's no way you'll get Megatron back in the league. But look, I mean, Stafford is a very well compensated guy. I don't feel sorry for that guy at all. He's had multiple chances. Yes, Detroit is a not a great franchise, but he's had talent. He's had chances, and in that division, come on, man. Like you gotta at some point.
If you can't beat Mitch Trubisky, come on. I mean, I understand when you play against the Pack and you've got Aaron Rodgers on the other side, that's a different level. But when you're playing against Chicago or you're playing against Minnesota, I mean, Kirk Cousins, really, that guy goes to the playoffs and gets a win, and Matt Stafford can't.
A little Michigan State hatred there.
I have no problem. Kenny Willekes was my guy. He's my underrated guy. Come on.
So I
give Chase Young some props.
You want it's funny to go quarterback like in the early second round, something like that? I mean, get another guy in there. What do you think?
So here's the question. And again, like I said, in terms of the Giants taking Andrew Thomas, right? Because of the lack of, just preparation up to this season. If Detroit is thinking that they need the replacement for Matt Stafford, and it's either got to be a guy that they groom this year for next year, what do we know about next year?
Sure.
I think there's going to be football, but who knows? I think there'll be NFL football. What happens if the college football season is postponed until January? Then all of a sudden, the top 5 quarterbacks in the country decide I'm not going to play because the NFL is not going to move their draft, and I don't want to play into, I don't want to play a college football season and an NFL season all in one calendar year. So now what do we do with, how do you evaluate the quarterbacks coming out next year if you're going to draft a guy next year? That is the only scenario if Bob Quinn is thinking about that in regards to how do we evaluate quarterbacks next year. If next year's the year we want to take a quarterback, do we have to take him this year because of the unknown of what's going to happen?
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's a great point, man, because there are multiple scenarios out there. If college football doesn't start Labor Day weekend, do you go conference only season? Can you start in October, or do you go winter spring and push that whole thing back? So that's a fascinating point.
That's a whole nother rabbit hole we can go down.
Well, and I'm here for that. But it is going to be interesting because I think you're right. NFL football is probably a much safer bet in 2020 than college right now, just because of the economics of the whole thing. I mean, NFL owners can afford to play games in an empty stadium. That's likely not the case in college, especially because of the student athlete dynamic. And,
there's a lot of variables.
Right? Yeah. Are you just going to bring the kids back to school who can actually make money for the school? Or, what about the biology majors and the math majors and the rest of those kids? So, it's interesting stuff. Look, man, I'm just glad we got sports tonight. This episode's dropping on Thursday. It's going to be unscripted. It's going to be theater. I'm here for that. Even if it's weird, even if there's nobody walking across the stage and shaking hands with the commissioner.
Yeah.
So I had Cesar Ruiz on yesterday's podcast, being Wednesday, and I asked him because he's a part of the virtual draft. So I asked him, what's it like? And he said they sent us some, camera gear because, if we get selected, then they want to be able to show because we can't walk across the stage. And I said, well, did they send you 32 hats? He said, yeah, actually they did. And not only this, so here's the one thing that I asked him, and I'm hoping that he didn't have this plan, but maybe I planted the seed. So if we see Cesar Ruiz and you hear what I'm about to say next, you'll know where it came from. How many of those guys in the first round who have dreamt of walking across the stage, holding up their jersey, putting on the hat, taking the picture with Roger Goodell? Roger Goodell can't be there. How about a life-size cutout of Roger Goodell sitting next to you, sitting there going, hey, nice, welcome to the NFL, bud.
It's awesome. I'm good with that.
I think there's a lot of things that can happen tonight. And I'm just excited for, like you said, theater, drama, all the things that go with it. And it's a chance for us to celebrate all of the kids that we've covered on the college side of things. We have gotten to know. They get their moment in the sun, and while it's going to be different, it's still going to be special. It'll be an epic moment for them in their life, and I couldn't be happier for all 32 that go in the first round, for all of the guys that go in all 7 rounds. It is a dream come true.
Yeah, that's well put. That's good stuff. I'm excited, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. John, I'm just glad you were able to carve out some time from your very busy schedule, man, because, I'm not joking. You got a lot going on. You got In the Trenches pod. I mean, you're the face of, Big Ten Sirius XM radio, and I think it's great. I think it's awesome. Even though you do still have a face for radio. Don't let this
I do. This whole Zoom thing is kind of throwing off my game a little bit.
I know. All right. Hey, get out of here, man. It was good to see you. Thank you.
You too. Hey, you guys take care.
All right.
See you, John.
Good. John Jansen, Michigan man. Love it. That's phenomenal stuff. And look, all joking aside, JJ's our guy. I mean, he's been a part of college sports now since the jump. Always has been and always will be. So that's our man. That's Big John. At John Jansen 77 on Twitter. Might have to get up in his mentions tonight watching the draft. Not gonna lie. Might have to just, poke fun with the old man because it's fun, man. Look, it's, we had Roddy Jones on, we've had Michael Felder on. This is, this whole thing, College Sports Now, COVID edition, is a way for us to, maintain a little bit of sanity and have some fun, sure. But like, I care about you guys, like, I'll be honest. I mean, I used to send John Christmas cards. I don't anymore because he's not on our show. But you get what I'm saying. Like, Wayne, you've gotten them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it's like, man, you guys
first
are
of all,
family, man. You gotta have it.
You guys are the best, and that was awesome. We've watched them. If you really think about it, over the years, I mean, we're the mainstays here right now, but we've had a lot of people that have been a part of this show that have gone on, and you turn on ESPN, you turn on, they're all over the place. People, this is people are, the movers and shakers are starting on College Sports Now, and it's love the fact that, and I'll say this too, working with you guys, it's easy. And by the way, JJ's great, isn't he? I mean, the guy is filled with so much good information. He just does a great job.
I mean, Jansen's my guy. I do feel it's happened just a handful of times, but walking around in a public setting with Big John, you walk a little taller, if you know what I mean. I mean, if you guys have met me, I'm not a large person. But when you've got, the former NFL tackle, on your side, yeah, you might run your mouth a little bit more than normal because, you got Big John. I mean, come on, let's go. You want to go? Let's go. That's all I'm saying. Awesome.
You guys have seen The Princess Bride, right? That old movie.
Overrated movie, by the way.
Okay,
with Andre the Giant.
Overrated.
Exactly what I thought of is the moment in the movie when Andre the Giant and the Inigo Montoya character, he's like, everybody move, and like hundreds of people just like part. I just kind of picture that what it was like for you guys with the national championship with John Jansen.
Well,
pretty much.
Famously, Jansen picked Clemson to beat Alabama in Santa Clara 2 years ago. He got in on the ground floor there with the Tigers as an underdog, and he was right. So he.
All I know is that we
went
to the IMG party, which a few years ago with Third Eye Blind, remember Hartzell. And Jansen just, not that there was a ton of people standing at the front of the stage, but once Jansen said, "Cookie, come on, we're going up to the front," it was people just part when that guy walks, and he's a big man. He's a big man, but he's such a good dude. Fun to hang out with.
Giant. It's a rough exterior, but it's all for show. Deep down, he's a big old teddy bear. Wayne, before we get out of here, I like to give you the last word on these shows because that's just what you do. I mean, if I tried to give the last word, you would come over the top and then we'd be here all night. So as you get ready to watch the draft, as our listeners get ready to tune in for what is going to be a unique, one-of-a-kind affair, yes, it's a made-for-TV event, but, again, everyone's going to be in different places. The logistics of how this is all going to go down, and I'm sure you've probably seen some of these articles.
Yeah.
You can't have a studio show because you can't have people sitting at a desk together. So, I mean, it's going to be different. And, God bless the producers who have to say, okay, Kuiper, go. Okay, McShay, go. Okay, Reese, or, you got the ABC, you got the ESPN, NFL Network. It's all one thing. It's all like, combined. So as we get ready to watch this thing tonight, what are you most excited about, man? What are you most looking forward to?
I probably watch more of the sports stuff. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe I don't, but they've done a really good job. But there are times when on air, whether it's news or sports, where someone's camera freezes or turns off or their volume's not working or whatever. It
or
will
their
have
that their kids are down the hall watching Netflix and Disney Plus and just overloading the router. Yeah,
I actually made it a required, like, this is non-streaming time in the Cook household whenever we're doing a show, because I was having that issue too, where I would lock up and freeze up. But one of the deeper thoughts that I've thought of, not to bore you guys, but one of the deeper thoughts that I've thought of was, like, we live in this world now, and we're doing it more than ever, where people are behind screens. And the draft, more than anything, and I don't know how many mock drafts you guys have read, but there's 8 million scenarios. There's even multiple scenarios by the same people. It's kind of like if you ever seen the old movie Clue, but what if this is what really happened? And then they go through another scenario where there's more trades, and what if this guy slips to here? And there's just so many things, which makes it so much fun. there's the fan bases. That's the part that's going to be interesting to me, because it's always fun to hear the reaction of the crowd when there's a pick that people don't like Daniel Jones. You know, where people are like, oh, you can hear the, like, why did they do that? Now there's people like me that go, that's a pretty good pick. But there's always going to be that. And in the world we live in right now, I think more than ever, there's a whole bunch of people, you know, and this is part of the fun, don't get me wrong, but there's a whole bunch of people that like to stand on the sidelines and judge. Coaches are making wrong decisions. Presidents are making wrong decisions. You know, people just in general are, you know, how did they screw up? I'm smarter than they are because I have no responsibility and I'm sitting here behind a screen and I'm going to let you know how stupid everybody else is. That's a big part of our society right now. We just judge. When it comes to sports, though, I think that's when I'm okay. It's what makes it fun. And I think we're going to miss a little bit of that, maybe the live reaction. I don't know how they would even get that. You know, it would be great if we had video cameras in people's houses, just like diehard fans, where we got the Jets fans' reaction for their pick. Or you see what I'm getting at?
You could just
that
get stock
aspect of
footage.
it.
You could get stock footage of all the Jets fans just being like,
Right.
"Oh God."
Yeah, you could, but like having like super fans like from all these different teams and getting their reaction, because to me that is kind of fun. It's one of the things I like is listening to the fan bases get upset when all three of us watch a lot of college football. And if you know, Miami, for example, this is a great example. You know, and we've talked about it, and I was happy to hear that John Jansen was the first guy that we've talked to that was like, Justin Herbert's really good. Like, he likes Justin Herbert. And so he was like, well, what if Justin Herbert is taken by Miami and the Miami fans have their heart set since last year on Tua, right? Remember, it was tank for Tua. So that kind of stuff, I'm dying to see what the reaction is, and we might miss a little bit of that. I'm interested to see what the stations do to kind of conjure up the emotion.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, logistically, there's a lot of plates that are being spun at the same time tonight for this draft broadcast. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. But look, it's going to be everywhere. Jansen's right. The ratings are going to be through the roof. It's going to be the highest rated, well, NFL draft ever, but you know, maybe sporting event of the off season. Because guess what, guys? There are no other sporting events of the off season. You know, maybe the PGA Tour comes back, maybe, but yeah, this is it. So a lot of people are invested in this emotionally, and you know, look, it's given us a reason to talk ball here on the show for the last 2 weeks. So I've enjoyed that. So on the record, Serber, you've got Miami taking Tua with the 5th overall pick, or moving up to get Tua. You're all in for that?
I think that's what's going to happen.
Okay. I'm rooting for you, buddy.
Yeah,
I'm rooting for you.
We'll see. I don't know. You know, Jansen got me fired up about Isaiah Simmons. I don't know if maybe we should wait for Jordan Love now.
Well, if it doesn't happen, you've got a stack of vinyl behind you. So do you just dig up the Simon and Garfunkel and, you know, Hello Darkness, My Old Friend? Is that just on a loop?
Yeah, Sound of Silence will be spun. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, I mean, look, that's fair. Look, I'm going to be on Twitter. I'm going to be watching. I think our show account at CS Now Tweets is going to be serving up some spicy takes. The NFL draft's going to take over Twitter, much like The Last Dance did on Sunday night when the Jordan documentary was rolling out, and it will again for the next couple of weeks. So, look, it's going to be a lot of fun. I do want to thank John for joining the show. Again, our resident big man at John Jansen 77 on Twitter, all over SiriusXM 84, as well as their Big Ten channel. Wayne, I've enjoyed it the last couple of days, man. Yep. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a blast. I can't wait. And now, are we reacting to this on Friday, guys?
I don't know about that. I gotta figure that out. I've got an early morning tea time. I can't get out of it. I'm sorry. I can't get out of it.
So the golf courses are opening up out here too, but from what I've heard, there's zoos. It's really hard to get a tea time. We've been closed down. I've got a little membership up, and by the way, it's not an expensive membership, but we've got a golf course, and my buddies and I are like, we'll call it PM members. We go after one, and it's $15, and it's a great golf course. But it's been so crowded, you can't.
You walk
because they're social distancing. Well, at our course, they're letting you have a cart to yourself.
Okay.
So they only have so many carts, right? So there's only have 4 foursomes an hour. That's all they're allowing. So it's really bogged down, and so we're going to have to be creative, because a lot of people are like, we get to play golf again, and the weather's been beautiful. It was raining for a long time. Now it's 88 degrees out here, so people are ready to go play golf.
Here's the thing. I've played 2 rounds this season. It's kind of nice. You don't touch the flag stick stays in, right?
Stays in,
You're
yeah.
not pulling
Which
out
is a
the
new
flag.
rule anyway. It's
Sure.
like you don't
So
have to pull
you're
it
just
out
going
anyway.
Bryson DeChambeau on every hole. You
Right.
just leave the flag in, even if it's a 2-footer,
What
whatever.
a weirdo.
No rakes in the sand traps.
No rakes.
Not like you have to worry about
you
that. 'Cause
got-
I know you're 290 right down the fairway
yeah,
every
yeah,
time anyway.
Pretty
but
much in
look,
the middle, yeah.
You get it in the sand trap, you blast it out, you give it the old,
Fix it with your foot.
swoop,
Yeah.
the old foot sweep, and then you're done. Which is, again, it's
We're
kinda
doing the
nice.
same thing. Yeah, we're doing the same
and then
thing.
they've
right
got the foam in the cup, so if the ball goes in, it's not down in there. It's just kind of hovering around the top. Or your club might have the whole cup pulled out, which I don't like, because now
Yeah,
you're
I
just
don't either.
hitting the target, and that's a
Yeah.
little different. But either way,
Have
golf is a pretty good
It's pretty good
sport
sport
for social distancing.
We need to get out of the house too. I mean, remember people's sanity. I mean, I think if you can do it and be smart. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm an exerciser, and it's a hit or miss with the people that are wearing their masks or not when I'm out walking or running. I got to ask you guys a question, and I know we're never going to get done here, but started watching, because we've watched so many stinking shows on TV. Started watching The Outer Banks. I don't know if you've heard of it on Netflix. It's pretty new.
Sober shaking his head.
I know
He
you guys are
knows about this.
North Carolina, right? It's the island. Come on, fill me in. Is there any reality to what's going on there, or is it just I mean, come on, Serbs, you got something to say?
What kind of show
haven't-
is this?
I haven't seen the show. It's like a drama.
It's kind of a
Like-
teen drama. It's a little bit on the silly side. It really
Yeah,
is.
I want.
I'm
Yeah,
good.
absolutely. But from what I gathered, the premise is that there's like treasure. There's like a
sunken
shipwreck.
ship. Yes.
Yeah, the Outer Banks is a graveyard of the Atlantic because of
Very nice.
the way that it's structured. Yeah, man, like ships just they
Crash.
wrecked there all the time because
Yes,
it's choppy water. There's land where you don't expect there to be land. I've gone out on fishing trips out the Outer Banks, and it's interesting. We go out on the ocean or whatever, and we go all the way out to like the Intercoastal Waterway. That's cool. But when you're coming back into the Outer Banks, it's dicey, man.
Right.
Like, especially when you're trying to get into these inlets. Like, there was one point we're in this skiff, and it's like we're dragging the bottom, and like we are far out in the ocean.
Yeah,
like-
that's a no for me, dog.
Right.
To quote
And-
Randy Jackson, that there's no way. in
And
hell.
like
No
the
chance.
captain's like, you hear that? Yep, we're on the bottom right now. We'll be out of it soon. And I'm just like, I've been seasick the entire time anyway because the water's full of chop in the Outer Banks, and
Wait,
it's gnarly.
Is the island poor rich? Is there like different sides to the island? Is it like there's certain?
Yes.
100%. The eastern part of North Carolina in general, there's a lot of poverty. It's not great, and especially when you get into these islands where, let's be honest, the main way to make money if you live out there is tourism. And
I thought you were going to say something else. Wayne,
Well-
if you want to watch a teen drama that took place on
know.
the coast of North Carolina,
Yeah, well,
just go back and rack Dawson's Creek, man. It still holds up.
I
Okay?
got you. I got you.
Timeless. All right.
Yeah, I know. It was just
Pacey.
it's new. We've watched
Come
so
on,
many
man.
series that we're like, hey, let's try this one. You know what I mean? It pops up on the top 10 on Netflix, and we try it, and even if it's bad, you're kind of like, well, I want to know what happens next, so you kind of keep going.
Yeah.
and you're just like, I'm never gonna financially recover from this.
I still have a hard time navigating the Netflix menu.
It's hard.
Okay, like I just sit there and I just keep
Yeah, I know.
keep going. I just keep
know.
going. I have commitment issues when it comes to Netflix, man. I can't commit. Just in Netflix, not with anything else. I'm a pretty loyal guy. So
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna wrap up the show. Thank you to John. Thank you to Wayne. Thank you to Serber, guys. It's been fun. It's not the end. It's just goodbye for now. So at CS Now Tweets on Twitter. Drop us a line if you want to see, Wayne's scorecard from when he plays golf for the first time this season, and all those big boxes next to those numbers. Give us a shout. I'm sure Wayne will share it with you
Probably
guys.
78, probably right around there.
On the front nine, and then you make the turn.
I've been
and,
working on my short game in the green belt right by my house. This is when I social distance. I go out and chip golf balls.
Do you? You just flip
Yeah.
wedges? No big deal.
I also have a volleyball court that's out there that I can work on my sand game too. So I'm ready.
Do you reenact the scene from Top Gun? You and Iceman, you're just out there just serving up aces?
Shirt doesn't come off in public anymore, buddy.
Got it. Okay, good to know.
I mean,
Very
I
interesting.
mean, it might if I'm out on my boat. But and by the way, don't think my boat's like the boat you might have seen in that. It's like 20 years old, but I love it.
Hey man, as long as it's not sprigging
I just
water,
don't want you guys to think I'm acting like I'm some sort of a snob here when I thought I have a boat. It's a
dude, it's cool, man. I got a boat. I mean, it's a canoe, but it's a watercraft.
boat.
They
like-
tinge, but I keep them clean.
That's right. That's right. And look, man, for when the apocalypse comes and we're all flooded, you'll see me. You'll see me and mine. We'll be on top of that water. Yeah, we'll be canoeing around. We'll be fine. All right, we're gonna get out of here, folks. At CS Now tweets on Twitter. Enjoy the draft, everybody. I'm sure the Falcons will find a way to screw it up. So long.
Go Fins.